Mr. Bill Davies, Mr. Market President of Truist in the Northwest Georgia region. Tell us what that's all about. What does that mean? What is Northwest Georgia defined as?
Yeah, so for me, that's it's Dalton, Calhoun, Cartersville, LJ, Somerville, Rome, Soapstick, Crandall, Ramhurst, you name it. No, it's we have branches in most of the Northwest Georgia markets, and my primary role is to oversee the commercial bank for Truist. Okay. I have some degree of indirect involvement in our retail operation, but my job is primarily to make commercial loans, which primarily around here is supporting manufacturing businesses. We do a lot of commercial buildings. I've always, though, really enjoyed the real estate side of the business, and I also do some income-producing properties, multifamily, self-storage, that sort of thing. But kind of a generalist, you would say, commercial generalist banker. And I've been with Truist, BB&T formerly, and now Truist. This will be my 21st year. And,
have you officially changed the sign? I feel like that signage has been coming and
going. You haven't been by lately then.
Well, it's been coming and going. There's this fake BB&T sign on front of the Truist sign for like a month or two.
The sheet is off.
We ripped it off.
Full purple. In February, the SunTrust branches came in, and that was our sort of final major merger event. And SunTrust converted, and we pulled all the bags off the ATMs, and the BB&T side has been Truist since October. Mm-hmm. So we're right in the throes of merger mania right now. So,
wow, nice.
So how did you phrase that? You said you oversee the loans? You're not doing the loans.
Yeah, no, I do the loans. Yeah,
Oh,
I've got me and my number two, a guy named Seth White. We manage about 200 commercial and business relationships, and all in Northwest Georgia, we're the largest bank by deposit market share at about $1.6 billion. So we look over a good chunk of that, kind of on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
You actually did the financing for this building we're standing in.
I did, and it turned out fantastic.
Yeah. Exciting stuff.
No doubt.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the new Market Street connection that's going to happen, I hope.
What's the timeline on that? I've been hearing about that for a minute now.
It's like every other contractor you talk to. We're 2 weeks out, and they'll be 2 weeks out until they're done.
Until it's done.
It's like the movie The Money Pit. Y'all remember that one? It's 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks, that'll be done.
Yeah.
Now, there's some work to be, something that is that, we talk about big, bold ideas. I mean, that's a big, bold idea. And, kudos to the mayor and the council for taking that project on. But these things, as you guys know, you develop property, it takes a long time to get all the pieces in place. So I wouldn't be surprised if this thing doesn't take 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, most of the time when we're developing property, you see nothing happen. It gets talked about. Nothing happens for what appears to be 6 or 8 months when it's all this kind of behind-the-scenes stuff, and they're doing a soil test, and there's a hole in the ground this big that nobody sees and nobody knows anything's happening, but we're testing the soil and doing all that kind of stuff. So nothing happens for 6, 8 months. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden you get this big equipment in, and everybody's like, oh, the project's getting started, and they bulldoze a bunch of dirt, and, it stops for like another 6 or 8 months, and then all of a sudden you get all the framing done, and everybody gets really excited. They're like, "Oh, okay, now we're really getting somewhere." They're framing up some structures, and then the finished project, the finished part of the project, takes forever. And so it's like, gosh, they're never going to open that road. And then it's constant. It feels like it's foot on the gas, foot on the brake, foot on the gas, foot on the brake. So
and it's probably the worst it's ever been right now because of labor shortages, supply chain. I mean, just the just the sewer stuff that they'll need to do the road is backed up 8 months and all. So these things take a long time. That's why we talk about growing housing or development in our community. If we're not planning now, the stuff we plan today creates a house or a development 5 years from now.
That's right.
So
that's a good segue. You wear another hat besides the market president for Truist. What other hats do you wear, Bill?
Yeah, so I think it's important for bankers, especially, to be involved in the community, right? I mean, we are really just a function of how well this community is doing. So we have to be at the forefront of making sure that the community is vibrant, that we're growing. And so I've done a lot of things. Most recently, I was the chamber board chair. I've been involved with Believe Greater Dalton and the housing effort specifically out of Believe Greater Dalton that I know you have been a big part of. Out of that, the Believe Greater Dalton housing effort said we need to do a housing study. Right. So 2018, there was a housing study done. Not shockingly, it told us that we're way short on what we need. At the time in 18, it said we needed 150 single family units new and 100 multifamily units per year. Okay. I don't think we've probably put a big dent in that in the last 4 years, although there's been progress for sure. The housing study also said that we needed to create a nonprofit development corporation. And the best example of that I could give everybody would be the River City Corporation in Chattanooga. A lot of people think, wow, Chattanooga's great and it's always been great and downtown's cool and all that. And, no, right? When I was a kid, it's a polluted, crime-ridden steel city, right?
That's right.
And so the Lupton family in Chattanooga put a good chunk of money and created this nonprofit up there, and they started developing multifamily properties. Initially, I think, was where they started, and 25 years later, look at where Chattanooga is. So the idea was to do something similar, but be, instead of downtown oriented, to be housing oriented throughout Whitfield County, and so that's where we created the Flooring Capital Development Corporation, or FCDC as we call it. And it's still early infant stage. We don't even have a checking account at this point, so we've got some work to do. But we originally, when we started the concept, we thought, well, we're going to need to help support multifamily development, right? Because we really need a parking place for people. We know people want to live here. We have jobs. We have good health care. We have great internet. We have great utility. We have a safe community. And so we knew people wanted to be here. And as we sort of peel back the onion out of Believe Greater Dalton, it's, to me, education and housing are 1A and 1B. And I'm even more and more convinced that housing has become 1 and education maybe 2. So it's just critical for the healthy growth of our community. And that's not just at the higher income levels. I know we were real focused on sort of that medium range housing, but in the higher end type housing for executives and professionals and all, we've got a workforce housing problem that is really going to be a big issue. So, so we started down the multifamily path. We thought, well, what we can do as a nonprofit is somebody can either write us a check, and then we can go out and partner with developers and make favorable equity investments to make a project. So right now, based on our per square foot in single family and our per square foot rental rates, as you well know, the numbers just don't work, right? And that's why we haven't had development. So you have to have something to get us from A to B. So we started down the multifamily path, and we thought, well, that's where we're going to need to focus. We really need multifamily. I mean, the last significant multifamily construction on the higher end of the scale, I was in high school, right?
Was that Legacy?
I'll be 49 years old this year, right? It was the Park Canyon.
Oh, yeah.
Park Canyon.
That's
right.
right.
It was like 92.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's been a lot of 2s and 3s and 5s and 1s and all that, but nothing of, that would, like Jason Mock, our new chamber president, like, where would he live if he needed to rent for a year or 6 months? So the good news on multifamily front is there are some other tools that are being utilized to make deals happen. TADs are being used. You can do tax abatement on multifamily. And so we've got, 200 units under construction and hopefully 400 more units coming. And so the FCDC is sort of, I see it evolving and shifting more to the single family side and probably more towards revitalization of existing housing, redevelopment of areas, so that's kind of where we are. It's still, we're still trying to figure it out, what the role is, but it's just a tool in the toolbox at this point for, somebody could donate land to us said, hey, I had a big tax year. I need to, I'm tired of paying taxes on this property. It's kind of dead. I have a, heart for the community. They would donate it to the FCDC. We would take it in. We would presumably do an RFP type thing and invite developers to come and say, we would set some parameters to say, okay, we want this, that, or the other here. And we would put the land in, right? We would do so in a way, we want to get our money back, but we're not going to be looking for the 20% return.
Right. And
if you took that number out of the equation, then maybe a project that doesn't work becomes mathematically feasible. And it's the theory, at least. I'm looking forward to testing that theory out. But, in a perfect world, you do it a few times and the per square foot comps get in place, and all of a sudden every developer within 100 miles wants to be in this market.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what happened to Chattanooga downtown. That Lupton family didn't build the aquarium. Like, they had a piece of it, right? But they didn't build all those North Shore condos either. Once it gets established, it has some organic growth on its own. Yeah. So we just need a catalyst. We just need a fire starter to get it done. Yeah. So you mentioned TADs. Explain in its simplest form, what is a tax allocation district?
Okay, and I'm certainly not the most qualified to describe a tab, but so basically, you think about it. You take an area of a community, maybe you call it a 5 or 10 block area, and you draw a little box around it. Okay, and you freeze the taxes at whatever the rate is today. Okay, so developer still pays that amount of tax, same that the community is getting.
Let's say on a regular house, it's $1,000.
That's right. And in most cases, it's not going to be a house. It's going to be a piece of raw land, or it's going to be old commercial buildings. And the intent is to provide that subsidy to make a project that's not mathematically feasible, right? So what happens is, so the developer comes in, first of all, they take all this risk, okay? They're signing on the debt. They're bringing in equity monies to make a project work. They're going to create tax value, right? Because say it's worth $1 million today, and they make it worth 10. Okay. All the TAD does is it gives the developer that differential. A portion of that differential comes back to the developer to effectively help subsidize and make a deal feasible. And it's a lot of people, it's a difficult mechanism for a lot of people that aren't kind of in the business to understand, and it's certainly difficult for the average, citizen to put their head around. And now it's, and the way our community is set to do it, there's two ways to actually pay the developer. Some communities, and this is the most aggressive way to do it, can actually borrow that increment in advance and then give it to the developer on the front end. Some communities actually do that. Ours is set up to be a pay-go. So as those tax revenues come in over some period of time, 10 years, 15 years, the developer gets that cash flow back to them. The community is, gets something great, something different, something better, presumably, and the community really doesn't have much risk. The downside would be, if you had 500 homes came in, and all of a sudden there were, an extra 400 kids in the, school systems. The school systems probably absorb the cost, so to speak, without the benefit of those taxes. But long term, again, we're talking about long term. Think about when the TAD runs out, because it'll run out over a certain period of time once that number is hit, and then all that money goes to the community. So 15, 20 years from now, you've got this great development. You've got something that wouldn't be there otherwise. Or you can do like, the county's doing. You can sit on your hands and you can get what you got. And you're going to keep getting what you've always had. And so you have to really embrace the idea that we want better. And a lot of people in the community really are behind that and believe in that. It's just it's a difficult, like I said, it's a difficult mechanism to understand, and it's certainly, it lost in we kind of rushed the ballot vote on TAD, and I'm not even sure if we had not rushed it. I mean, it's just such a difficult, and it's got the word tax in it, which is sort of a death sentence for our conservative area around here. So,
It could.
you know,
The
So
way
do you think that is the pushback, like just maybe the lack of understanding?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's most of it.
Oh, I think it has to be. The way I've explained it to people is that one house, and let's say that house sits on 3 acres, and that one house is bringing in $1,000 in tax revenue. So the developer can come in, bulldoze the house, build 3 houses because he's now got to get the sewer to all 3 houses. He's got to get road frontage to all 3 houses. So he bulldozes the one house, builds 3 houses, and now there's $3,000 in tax revenue that the county would get instead of the $1,000.
Right.
Well, they're still guaranteed the $1,000, but the $2,000 in tax revenue goes back to the developer for building the sewer and building the road that goes in to build all 3 houses.
Offsetting the risk, right?
Yeah, and as soon as that developer gets paid back, there is no more money to get. So the tax allocation district might be for 20 years, that length of term, but if they are paid back in 17, you get the 3 years back to the county for free. So they can't make money on that part of the process. It's literally just a reimbursement of whatever they spent to build the road and build the infrastructure. So it's not like we're paying the developer extra. We're literally reimbursing them for taking the risk of building the road, which counties used to build the roads themselves and take all the risk.
Mhm.
The Gap Road that we're off of right here was built with county dollars. So that's the thing that I think a lot of people miss is that counties aren't building those roads now. So in order to get the road built, somebody's got to take a risk.
Right.
And so this is a way for the county to fund it with dollars that were created by the developer anyway. So I think if people could just shrink it to that size and say, okay, that makes sense, $1,000, $3,000. A lot of people start to lose their focus when you talk about $1 million versus $2 million or $5 million versus $10 million. So when I shrink it down to that level and I draw the picture, everybody I've talked to when I've met with them go, oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, in that 2,000 too, it doesn't have to all go back to the developer. The community can say we want 500 of that 2,000, so they still get a net increase in tax value. In the long run, it's a no-brainer. But
when you do it that way with the schools, it certainly makes it make sense. If we said, hey, of that $2,000, 500 is going to go back to the community so that we can grow the school at the same time that you're growing the school need. Yeah, it can be structured in a way that makes a lot of sense. And our county commissioners did a good job in the fact that they want it to be pay as you go instead of let's borrow the money and hope this thing works out. Mm-hmm. If it's pay as you go, the risk for the county is virtually zero. I mean, they may end up with a road. If the developer goes under, they end up with a road that then they can use. Right. And it cost them nothing because the developer went out of business. So the developer's taking a ton of risk and the county has virtually zero cost.
Well, the frustrating part, I think, to some extent is the school boards and our leadership there has been real supportive because they see a big picture, right? Mm-hmm. I've heard numbers. I don't know for sure, but a lot of schools are shrinking now. Mm-hmm. And while property tax is part of their revenue quotient, head count's another one. Mm-hmm. And if you've got a high school, say Coala Creek, that's 55% occupied, I don't know what the number is, but it's not full, you really don't, the incremental impact of bringing more kids in there is really not that great, if any. Mm-hmm. So the school systems, I think, are thinking about it in a long-term way. And you hear, well, how do you pick winners and losers and, as special interests and all, I do think you have to have a set of standards of what you want, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. But, what people don't realize is the massive amount of risk that these developers take to do these deals.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
When they can go to Chattanooga and it's $280 a foot for a house and mm-hmm. we're at $167 mm-hmm. and the costs are exactly the same, why would they come to Dalton, mm-hmm. right? So we got to move that needle. And so what we really ultimately everybody wants is just the natural, organic risk-taking to create what we need, and we're just not there. And we can, like I said, we can sit on our hands and get more Dollar Generals and crappy houses, or we can actually just be bold and support those risk takers. Good example, Patterson, I think, is the flashpoint on this thing, right?
Right.
And the residential side of that, he's very crafty and has figured out how he doesn't need the TAD to make that housing work. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now he's still taking a ton of risk. Mm-hmm. I promise you. The retail portion, retail multifamily portion, is what's in question. So, and help me if I get off on these numbers, right?
Okay.
But the market rent is about $13 a foot on Cleveland Highway retail,
Okay. Yeah.
right? 15,
fair
13, 12, 10, I don't know.
You're close. 13 to 15, really.
Okay, so the new construction, right, to make it work,
Mm-hmm.
he would have to get $28 a foot. Okay, $28 a foot, all right? The TAD, if it's passed and they can actually get this thing done, only brings their number down to like $23 a foot, right? So he's still taking enormous risks. Now, they want to call it, we're just, it's crony capitalism and special interests and all. No, you've got a developer here who's willing to really make a huge bet on our community.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to understand that risk metric and the math to really understand what's happening in these things. And, like I said, most people don't do that. It's not their business. They don't know how those numbers kind of work.
People have a tendency to think negatively of what they don't understand, just no matter what it is, I think.
Yeah.
So
I can tell you that with that commercial piece going in and all of those residential homes going in right behind it, if you're outside the TAD, but all that's happening right beside you, you now have comps that allow you to also get that same dollar per square foot, right?
Sure.
If they get $23 a square foot across the street, somebody ought to build that exact same thing on the other side of the street outside the TAD and get the same value, right? Like, I mean, the comp gets set, and now you've got some real growth happening. We've got a listing on Cleveland Highway that if that TAD gets finished for that area, we're outside the TAD, but it makes our property at least $100,000 more valuable just because that's happening. And it has nothing to do with TAD. It's just that developer took the risk, made it happen. Vehicles per day all of a sudden go up. And that vehicle per day metric is what makes commercial property sell or not sell.
The income numbers go up, right? The median income and all those things that drive retail and other things. And it ultimately going to help the other retail on that corridor, like you said, the existing retail.
Oh, yeah.
Right. They're not going to have as nice, so they're not going to be able to get the same, but they're going to be able to ease their rates up.
Yeah, it will help. Well, the thing is, too, it goes from 16,000 vehicles today to 20,000 vehicles per day, and that's the metric. Those bigger retailers that pay the high price for the dirt need 20,000 vehicles per day. Mm-hmm. They say no to 16 and they say yes to 20. Right. So as soon as those extra 400 homes get built, there goes the traffic count and there goes the value of that other land that's outside the district. So we're not really picking winners and losers. I mean, anybody right now can go down Cleveland Highway and buy a patch of dirt and wait for this thing to get done, wait for the vehicle count to go up, and then make money. So, I mean, it's not like we're being secretive about it. We're screaming it from the rooftop. Hey, this is coming. Like anybody can win. They just need to pay attention.
Well, we don't have enough local risk taker developers, right? I mean, and that's all we've really effectively seen for the most part is local developers. And so part of the trick is attracting those from outside the community. And it's just a pure exercise in math and risk taking. But the opportunity is there because as people move out of the bigger cities and they get into the safer cities, or they are getting overbuilt, say in Ackworth or East Cobb or whatever, those builders, those tract builders are looking up the 75 corridor. So, but we just don't have anything to sell them. We don't have the lots. We don't have the land. We don't have enough sewer. That's a whole nother big issue. My thought too about TADs is it could be used as an indirect way to finance sewer expansion without the community or utilities having to do it, right? Use some of the TAD proceeds to run 2 miles of sewer, which, oh, by the way, costs at least $1 million a mile.
That's right.
And so, again, I hope that the commission, and there's certainly several on the board of commissioners who are, who are supportive, who kind of get it long term, and I just wish the others would get on board.
Yeah. I just got a quote yesterday. For building a road, a county road, no sewer, no water, just the road, $385 a linear foot for the road and the curb and all the things you need to have a county road.
Jeez.
So as long as this table is, cost you almost $1,000. So, I mean, that's not a lot of road frontage for $1,000. So keep that in mind.
Well, and then if you're doing single family or really any development, you've got the stormwater thing too, right?
Oh, yeah.
So they're going to lose X number of lots because they've got to have somewhere for the water to go.
That's right.
And you just start adding all this up. And what happens is, and this is really an affordable housing issue, because what ends up happening is, so a lot needs to be what, 25% of the overall price of a home.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we've had really nice subdivisions developed because the cheapest lot they could get to was $150,000.
Mm-hmm.
So you end up with $500,000 to $700,000 homes. So that still mathematically works.
Mm-hmm.
It gets harder the farther you go down the scale. If you want a $200,000, I mean, let's say $150,000 house, you got to have a $30,000 lot, and that's either going to be done in. You have to have density, quantity to make the numbers work, or you're stuck like we are, and it won't work. Nobody's going to take the risk.
I would say even 20% is probably too high. I mean, the new construction homes that we've sold that are in that $200,000 range, they paid $11,000 for that lot.
Yeah.
They paid $10,000 for that lot.
I'll bet you something like half or more of the homes that have been built in the last 7 or 8 years were done on post-recession, bank foreclosed, cheapo lots.
That's right. Or county road already.
Yes. Yeah. Or we stuck a driveway on the road.
That's right.
And I mean, I think people, when they move to this town, they want a sense of community. And in most areas that comes with a subdivision with a little amenities, maybe a pool, and they they're buddies with their little cul-de-sac and all. We just don't have that.
Not under 400.
not under 400. And it's, I'm hopeful things are moving in the right direction though, right? I mean, and the credit to, Ellie High at Patterson, he did the orchard before that, and he moved the needle there, right? He's moving the needle again. So he's single-handedly resetting the market.
He really is.
And our thanks to him is, no, we're not going to help you. So
we're going to help you a little bit, I think, is actually what our thanks.
He got a little bit of help. The sewer, I think the utility, Dalton Utilities, didn't they spend $750,000 or something for the utilities?
Yeah, they spent some money, and the school board saying, hey, we're trying to be positive here. The school board's kind of on board. So he's getting a little bit.
Yeah.
So is a TAD the best way to encourage these developers to come over this way? Is that the prime strategy here?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think what probably developers want is, they want a healthy environment where they know that homes are going to sell. Lots are going to sell. Homes are going to sell. They probably want you to make it easy too, right? They want the property already ready. Maybe the property's under community control. They don't have to do permits and all. You know what I mean? Like, the more the community can do in front of the development to say, hey, and this is part of where we thought FCDC could do. Hey, we'll donate our property. We'll go and do some of the nonsense stuff, and we'll give, put this here. We got this ready for 100 homes. Just come on, make your best offer.
Yeah. The zoning piece too is, you might have a great piece of 30-acre tract of land that could be perfect for high density development, but it's zoned agriculture right now. And so developers don't want to take that step. They just don't want to have to deal with that level. So if the FCDC could buy it or get it under their control and then do all that stuff on the front end so that it is ready. And the sewer's already said, Dalton Utilities already said, we're good with this project. Lift station's already in place. Then the developer can just come in and be like, we can build houses. We can build roads and houses. Let's go.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's, I kind of want to transition over to the new chamber president.
Yeah.
He just started, right?
He did.
And you were instrumental in getting in there.
Yes. So,
Dennis Mock's cousin, right?
It is not Dennis Mock's son. He's got a son named Jason Mock, but no, Jason did start Monday. We're super excited. I actually met with him this morning, and so far so good. So as the outgoing chamber board chair, Dr. Venable at the college is the incoming. She asked me to chair the search committee, and agreed to do that. Never done anything like that before, and it was great. We hired a a search firm, the Chasing Group out of Cartersville, actually, who specializes in chamber roles. They brought us a great list of candidates, whittled it down, and ultimately ended up with Jason. Just super excited. His wife's Katie. She's a nurse, and so that's a +1 for sure, a good +1. He's got just a really engaging personality, great energy.
Mm-hmm.
He was with he's from Georgia. He's from Carrollton, similar to Dalton.
Mm-hmm.
And his wife's from Cumming. And so the last 5 years, he's been the chamber president in San Marcos, Texas. And that really kind of stood out to us and I didn't know anything about San Marcos, Texas. I do now. So it's 30 minutes south of Austin. That sound familiar?
Yeah, there we go.
About 45 minutes or an hour north of San Antonio.
Right.
Sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
And it has, quite frankly, very similar demographics that we have out there. And in fact, that community is well ahead of where we are in terms of Hispanic leadership. They've had a, Hispanic mayor. They have, they're ahead of. He's kind of seen what it could be like for us, and so we felt like that was a great fit. And like I said, I think he's just the right personality. He's done a lot of great things. He when he was in San Marcos, they went and visited cities all over the place and got kind of best practices and what are they doing in Provo, Utah? What are they doing in Greenville, South Carolina? Some of these successful communities. And so he's got a real, real passion for community building and just going to be a great add to our community. We got big expectations for
He's
him.
going to live in Ringgold. No, I'm kidding.
No, thank God we found him a place to rent. Thank you, Peter Posiak, his landlord. But yeah, we were worried about that. Like,
I'm sure you are. I would have been too.
Where is he going to live? Because like a lot of people, you come to a community new, you got to figure out where you want to be, and
there's a lot to figure out.
You need a parking spot, and that's where I think the higher end multifamily is so important, because I think our community. A lot of times people come here, and I get this anecdotally all the time, and they're like, "Man, I would love to have lived in Dalton, but I just couldn't find anything." But in Ringgold, blah 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 blah.
Oh yeah,
and you've lost them.
Right.
So at least if you have the multifamily piece, you've got a parking spot, right? Here, hey, come in, get to know the community. It takes a little bit of time because kind of peel back that onion and all. And we're just fortunate we found him a spot. But yeah, when you hire a chamber president, that's on the requirements. You're going to live in Whitfield County.
So for sure. When he comes to town, does he give you hey, here's what I want to accomplish the first 100 days like a president would, or is he just going to sit back for the first 90 days, look around and say, okay, let me get a flavor for what's going on here?
Well, I mean, I think you have to give him some time to assess what he thinks. He gave us some initial thoughts, did a lot of homework, really understood our community coming in. Unfortunately for Jason, Believe Greater Dalton 2.0 is like we're about to sort of roll that out to the community. So he's not going to have a lot of time. He's going to have to get on board with that and really help us. We raise money for that effort and really kind of ingrain in. But it takes time. I mean, there's just so many different personalities in our community and so many people he needs to get to know, and it's going to be
Selling North Georgia podcast guest next week.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Give him a few weeks. Come on, give him a few weeks. But y'all should have him on because he's just one of those kind of guys. You meet him for 5 minutes and you're like, oh man, we're friends now. And that's I think important for the face of the community is to be somebody that connects with people.
Yeah. Right. You're going to give us a sneak peek of Believe Greater Dalton 2.0? Got any talking points?
Yeah, I will. Allison Coker and all. I know it's about to be rolled
the thunder.
out. Yeah. So not materially different, in a lot of ways. The one thing that I feel like I'm going to probably play a role in going forward in the FCDC, we're actually probably going to roll it in not so much to housing, but to the revitalization effort. So that's the one thing that's going to be a little bit different and unique, is that we realize we've got to revitalize parts of our community, right? We've got areas where homes are just in really horrible shape. We've got issues with code enforcement. We've got, that dang chicken plant downtown that looks like,
It's
what
for
I mean?
sale by Keller Williams right now, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, get him off, get him,
we're
get him
trying.
sell it, man.
We are trying, for sure.
And, so we're going to take a little bit more of a surgical, strategic approach in certain areas. We Believe Greater Dalton 1.0 and our community, I think the greatest success we probably had in the last 5 years is downtown, right?
Huge success. Yeah.
Huge success. And I think Believe Greater Dalton had a role in that, but there's some organic growth in there. And, hats off to David Aft and Gene Burr for Bird Park, because that's been such a big part of that. But, what we heard in we did another survey, by the way, for this one, like 4,000 responses. We had more responses to our survey than the city of Indianapolis had to their survey.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
So,
That's
which
crazy.
was really encouraging. The level of engagement out there, that people want to be involved. They want to give their input. But from a revitalization standpoint, we're going to look at probably the areas closest to downtown and just sort of expand that sphere, so to speak, of of housing, the chicken plant, the North Dalton, the Crown Mill area, the some of the areas that strategically are very important. Nathan Kirkman took me on a bike ride on the Beltline about a month ago.
Oh, nice.
I've never been on it before.
Oh.
Like I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like how, so we're starting the idea of how do we really make a belt line. Of course, the city's running a trail from Hague Mill to Crown Mill.
Did you go under the bypass? Did you go through the
I
tunnel?
haven't, no,
okay.
no, I haven't done it yet. And then, but how do you get it from there to downtown? Right. And, so we're thinking outside the box. We're thinking like a big city, we're thinking like, what does this place need to look like 10 years from now, 20,
I'll say
30
this,
years from now?
the Believe Greater Dalton thing and the revitalization that happened downtown, it's almost as if there was a rally cry to, hey, we're going to fix downtown. And then other people jumped in and were like, oh, well, then let's be part of that and let's just jump in and help. And it might not have truly fallen under the umbrella of Believe Greater Dalton. There were a bunch of people that kind of said, oh, well, if they're going to do this, then I'm willing to spend a nickel here and a dime there because I'm willing to take my part in it, even if they didn't officially donate. There's a ton of developers, investors, real estate agents like myself that did something downtown that said, you know what, because they're spending money here, because they're trying to, I want to be in that. And so I think the same thing happens with North Dalton. If we really focus on that and 15, 20 developers or flippers like me get on board with the revitalization effort, totally changes the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and all you got to do is really kind of like, it's like kindling for a fire, right? Just spark a little kindling and the logs will take off. And, that's what we've got to do, but it's tough. I mean, there's cultural barriers, right? How do you do so in a way that doesn't impact in a negative way workforce housing, right? And we're all trying to kind of figure that out. I mean, there's no real easy answers, and these are 30-year. It took 30 years to create the problem.
Yeah, can't fix it.
Yeah, we're not going to fix it in a year or two. This is going to take 30 years to, but we got to start somewhere. And we got to think big, and we got to be bold, and we got to take action, and there's a lot of people that are ready to do that. And
so last week we had Ethan Calhoun on. So we solved the workforce housing problem last week with Ethan. It's tiny homes and mobile homes, right?
Yeah, apparently.
That's
it's
Carl needs to link up to last week's episode.
Man, 4 years ago, it was. I swear, I was about to pull my hair out with tiny houses because it was just everybody was all about tiny houses.
It's density, right? I mean, you're going to have density. I mean, the revitalization effort. So we're going to have to look really long and hard about the lot lines. If you go up and down the belt line in Atlanta, I mean, they got 4 foot lot lines. So, you can reach out and high five your neighbor, right? But it's going to take developments like that and redevelopments like that to get the density to support not only the workforce, but the, the 30-year-old couple, professional couple that's looking for something cool, wants to be close to downtown. Nobody wants to, I mean, most of the younger generation, they don't want to live in Cahutta. Sorry, Cahutta. It's beautiful out there. I would love living in Cahutta in a heartbeat. But the younger generation wants to be right near town. They want to hop on their bike.
Flexibility.
Exactly. I'll hike my bike, go to Hague Mill and, run the Hague Mill and then ride back, or, have 3 mangoes at DBC and ride a bike back home. Right. I mean, this is the way of the sort of housing world. And so we've got some of the pieces. We just have to figure out how to connect it. And we've got to bridge the cultural gap, like I said. I mean, North Dalton, you think we talk about the Hispanic community. I mean, it's Mexican and Guatemalan. And those are 2 very distinctly different communities.
Sure.
Yeah.
With different sets of ideas on what good housing looks like or what their neighborhood wants to look like. So we've got to find a way to bridge that gap and get them on board. One of the ideas is something called I'm going to get this wrong, but it's called a CID. It's a Community Improvement District. Which it functions similarly. It's kind of like a reverse engineering an HOA. So let's say you draw that circle in that area you want, right? And you get everybody, some percentage of the homeowners have to vote it in. And they're basically voting themselves a tax increase.
Oh, okay.
Think of HOA dues.
Yeah.
Okay. The benefit to them is all that increment goes back into their neighborhood. So they basically
say it's a DDDA, but it's for
that's right.
a different area.
That's right.
Yeah.
And how do we do that and bridge the language barrier and the cultural difference there? So that's one of the ideas that's been floated around. I think the city is completely 110% on board with doing whatever they need to do. Fixing sidewalks, having cleanup days, and code enforcement, streetscape. They're putting money in the trail, the Greenway Trail. I don't know what we need to come up with a good name for that thing. So we got a lot of people that are kind of really want to see this happen. And there's a lot of guys like you that are willing to go in there and take risk and buy a home and flip it. There's guys like you, including you, that are willing to maybe do so for a little less profit if it makes the community better. So there's a philanthropic element of this that I think we can tap into, but we got to light the fire. We got to have a project in there. We got to have something to really kind of
It makes it really hard for me to flip a house on Factory Street when the other 7 houses on Factory Street have codes being broken and windows broken and washers sitting on the driveway.
Yeah.
Like, I can't flip this house and even get close to making a profit if there's 17 code enforcement violations on the street, you know?
Yeah.
So that does make it tough if it could be in conjunction, if we could do.
But there's going to be some collateral damage here, right? Like if you think having a Bowflex on your front yard is okay, this is not your town. Go somewhere else.
Go to Cahutta. No, I was kidding. We love Cahutta. We're kidding.
We do.
We kid because
I haven't
we
been
love.
up to the Red Wolf. Is it Red Wolf?
Yeah, that's right.
I hear it's great.
Oh yeah.
I hear it's great.
Oh yeah, I was going to go by, but it was so packed. I was like, maybe another time. So they're doing pretty well apparently.
Yeah,
looks like it.
They got a general store across the street. Yeah,
that little area of town really makes me feel like I'm in a movie.
It feels Mayberry-ish for sure.
Yeah, I like it though.
I'll bet you there'll be a movie filmed there before it's all said and
yeah.
done. You know what I mean? Somebody will find that place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
Billy, you got did I cut you off? What's up?
I said, what else you got, Corey?
Well, I was going to say, Bill, what else you got? Because you came in stacked and prepared, but I haven't seen you reference it much. So we leaving something else out that you think's important?
No, obviously it's an interesting time, from the economy standpoint. It's been pretty good. Let's be honest here. If you can't appreciate how good it's been the last couple of years, I got bad news for you. There's not much room to go up. But I think we all have to be cognizant that we're in a volatile. Inflation is a headwind, both to our employers, our employees, our community. Obviously, what's happening in Ukraine doesn't help things at all. But our economy has shown some pretty significant resilience, right? You think about COVID. I mean, we were all shut down. The sky was falling. And 3 months later, it was the best 6 months the carpet industry may have ever had, kind of thing.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it, you know, I'm optimistic that the economy will see that, but there's clearly going to be some choppy waters ahead, and there's going to be some headwinds for us as a community. But
Are you telling me I can't expect another 20% increase year over year in sell prices? Is that what I'm hearing?
probably not. But I don't know. They printed inflation yesterday and 5.4%. So, you know,
Housing in Dalton in Q1 was up 18.6%
see,
year over year.
this
Sell
is
price.
the place to take a risk. You know, come to Dalton, take
If
a
you
risk.
totally messed it up, you still had that 18% buffer.
Well, and I think the question, a lot of people are looking at like, okay, you know, a lot of my clients are like, should I build a building? I need a building bad, right? I need building. And they look at the cost and they have sticker shock, right? And so the question is this a blip or something temporary? And $60 a foot for, you know, industrial, is it going to come back down and normalize over the next in 12 or 18 months? Or are they going to look back 18 months from now and say, man, I wish I built it at 60?
Yeah.
Because it's going to be
60 is way better than
85.
100.
Yeah. So,
I'll tell you this:
I
when
don't
it
know.
comes to industrial, I looked at the Dalton MLS late last week, Thursday last week, and there were 2 industrial listings in the entire MLS. 2. One of them was the chicken plant downtown, and one was Corey's listing over in Chatsworth, 62,000 square foot building over there. And we've got, I don't know, 3 or 4 showings on it this week. So like there may be one next week that's available. So it's amazing to me how fast the industrial landscape changed from January of 2020 to April of 2022. We went from all these vacant buildings. People in our town got used to thinking we just had all these vacant buildings around. And so I've had a couple of people reach out recently and say, hey, I need a place for my cheerleaders. I need a place for my baseball team to practice indoors. And tell me about one of those empty commercial buildings. I'm like, let me take
Which
you
one?
back at 2018. I can help you, but there are none today.
Yeah.
People just don't realize how fast that landscape changed. It was almost overnight.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Has the number of housing units improved at all? I
no,
mean,
it's less. 129 active listings in the Dalton MLS, and we need 400 to be considered a stable
well, and like
market.
you've said before, 129, and there's like 6 good ones.
Yeah. The median days on market is 11. So, you know, of those 129, 100
Well, I
of
mean,
them
we're,
are on
we're
the
not
market.
alone, right? I think that's a phenomenon that's happening in a lot of places in a lot
It
of
is.
smaller communities. Where we're different is we got some capital in this town,
No, we do.
right? We got some risk takers in this town. We got some visionaries in this town. And so how do we connect the dots? And I think part of what we've done with FCDC is just try to build awareness to how bad the problem is. And you've done a great job of that and been a big part of that. But, you know, I'm fearful that our industry is going to be real hamstrung in a year or 2 years or 5 years when they have jobs, they have people that would come take those jobs, and then they have nowhere for those people to live. And it'll be a governor on our industry, and we don't need to let that happen, you know. So we've got to start addressing it, and we, you know, quite frankly, we're going to work in partnership with many of those big, large employers. And one of the biggest success stories we've had of late is, you know, Hamilton healthcare system has gotten in the housing game. They saw a need they're bringing in interns and doctors, and they have the autism center, the cancer center. They've really been had a big seat at the table in this housing effort, and they've gone out and bought land and sold it to a developer for apartments, and they bought an entire street and redeveloped all those multifamily. So that's a model. If you know, we can either do it that, you know, the way we've without their, you know, help, and, you know, but I think they're all going to have to engage. All the employers are going to have to engage in the process if it's going to make sense. And I think everybody's now real aware of how big the problem is. And challenges is we're 2 years behind. I would like to see, you know, 5 Pattersons going right now.
Yeah, no doubt.
Definitely. Yeah.
We could withstand it for sure.
Bill, one last thing I want to ask you. I like to ask folks this to see what kind of answers we get. you ask the general public, what does Dalton need in terms of business? You always hear Olive Garden. Then you hear a joke about Dollar General like you just made. So just in your opinion, you can answer it however you want. But what would you like to see coming, like as far as new businesses, commercial?
I like to see. Well, I'm in the Olive Garden camp. I'm one of those people that really likes.
I don't
Olive
hate it.
Garden.
People make fun of it,
it's
but
salad and breadsticks, man. It's pretty solid. I just like spaghetti. It's hard to find a good plate of spaghetti in this town.
It is. Flamini's was the last good plate I had.
So what would I like to see? Is it just retail, or is it
how whatever
like an amusement park, or anything?
Anything applies. Yeah.
I would like to see, and I think there's some efforts on this front that are working, but I'd like to see more locally owned restaurants, more Cyrus, more Baja Coops, more Oakwoods.
Yeah.
And you talk about a dangerous game, right? I will say, and I'll put a plug out there for the DIA, which is the Dalton Innovation Accelerator, which y'all need to get her in here too, by the way. Lauren.
Oh, yeah.
They're working on trying to figure out how to do a incubator concept for restaurant owners, right? Because like 85% of them fail.
Yeah.
And everybody thinks their stuff tastes good, right? So what happens is they go out and they spend a couple $100,000. I'm in business. I'm in a restaurant. I think my stuff tastes good. And it's like, it's all right. So the incubator concept, there's really a good one in Chattanooga called Proof Bar that they rotate in chefs and they'll rotate the menu and let these people try out their stuff.
Oh, man, I love this idea. Keep going. This is fantastic.
We just need a couple more $100,000. All these problems are fixed with money, by the way. So, but yeah, I think there's some effort there. I think could be really, really a game changer. And I hope to see more restaurants, more locally owned restaurants. I mean, Buffalo Wild Wings would be all right.
Nothing wrong with that.
My son I might be able to get my son to move back to Dalton if we had a Buffalo Wild Wings. But
where is he now?
Georgia, University of Georgia.
Yeah, that's hard for a Georgia Tech man to say. I might have set him up for that, by the way.
Hey, he's happy, I'm happy, and I've always loved Athens, the town. I'm just not a fan of the Bulldogs.
Oh, I was hoping I was going to get a Go Dogs out of Bill just now.
I said it one time when he got his acceptance.
I
gave it one time because it was good for the Davies family, but
yeah.
Maybe one more at graduation.
And you're welcome, because now that he went there and the Davies finally went to Georgia, y'all won a national championship.
He brought the national championship with him.
So it's a completely 100% our doing.
What number was he when? Oh, okay.
It was just more of a spiritual
behind the
support.
scenes.
Yeah, it's more of just the karma. Support. It was the karma that he brought to camp.
That is funny. So. He wore the same number I did.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
All right, where do people find out more about you if they want to reach out to you about the FCDC or Truist, or how do you want people to find what you've talked about today?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way to, I guess I'm out there in the social media world. I'm not very active, but I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm even on Snapchat now because I can't talk to my son unless he won't respond to text. I have to be on Snapchat. But I mean, call me at work.
Yeah,
706-217-3715.
There we go.
And I'll answer, or I'll get back to you, and love to hear from anybody and everybody.
All right.
Well, awesome.
So if you got a couple $100,000 laying around that you want to invest in our community, there's that number.
Give
him a shout.
That's it. I'd give my cell number out for that one.
That's right. You might even buy lunch at the Oakwood for that one, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
All right.
Well, Bill, we appreciate you coming in. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Thank you. See you.